Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of season 2 of Bel-Air After Show podcast, Saved by the Bell. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. This, of course, is a companion piece to the subreddit, reddit.com/r/Bel-Air. So if you want to have a conversation about what we're talking about on the show, continue it over on the subreddit. Joining me this week are my co-hosts, Nolan.
Yo, what up? What up?
And Gyasi.
What's up? What's up? What's up, guys?
All right, great to have you here. Love the background, Gyasi, by the way, changing it up every week, keeping it fresh.
You know, we got to come hard for Bel-Air.
Indeed. All right, I appreciate it. All right, so let's get right into it and let's talk basically character storylines, because I think that's where it's like easiest to kind of organize. I mean, this was an interesting episode in that it basically bounced around like 16 different storylines for like a minute apiece. So instead of like trying to track the chronology of it, let's just focus on people's storylines. Let's start, of course, with Will.
Like that.
All right. What's that? Yeah. So starting with Will, so big pieces hit him this week. Obviously, we found out he was chosen for the Founders thing. He's learning how to swim. He is getting closer with Jackie and making Lisa jealous and losing Lisa as a friend. I thought that was crazy at the end there. What do we think of Will's story this episode?
Well, I feel like Will is the big draw to the show, obviously.
Sure.
So I feel like he definitely has to have the most going on.
Right.
I do think it doesn't have to be necessarily piled on like it's kind of doing, but I think it wasn't confusing in the way that things were laid. Like the swimming, the closeness that him and Lisa had, when she taught him how to swim, like you could see there was still like something there. It might be easy for him to ignore, but clearly it wasn't easy for her to ignore. And then to double back on that later on in the episode when Jackie pops up in the scene, and the twist is that Lisa knew who Jackie was. And then like Will is like coming up like, oh hey, this is I know her already type deal. So it's like, yeah, it made it like super awkward. I'm actually interested in seeing how far back they go, if they're like close friends or if they're just kind of associates from like working together or something like that. So I am interested in that. Outside of that, I do think it wasn't a surprise to hear Will's name thrown into the Founders Award.
I was surprised by that. That took me back.
I just felt like when I wouldn't say it was surprised when they said it, but it wasn't surprised like it couldn't have been said. Like he could,
Sure.
because like as soon as you heard Will's name, you knew what was about to happen next. Carlton was about to feel some kind of way. We've already seen that like last episode, or I think it was last episode when Will was getting suspended and like everybody's clapping it up and Carlton's playing the back role again, right? This was supposed to be Carlton's moment. Like, he been nominated. He basically self-sabotaged himself to kind of get this award, thinking like, okay, well, I secured it. Will took the heat for it. Not saying that he said that, but that's pretty much what happened. And so it was like, now I can just focus on getting, my recognition. And then once again, your cousin, your rival cousin, comes out of nowhere and takes your shine. So yeah, it was pretty. I like the Will storylines right now.
They got to do something to make Carlton upset and create that rivalry, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think Jabari Banks, number one, is still killing it. Great acting abilities from him. I think he's been very strong and consistent from the start of the show. It's still crazy that still his first. I think this was his first acting role, but he really seems like he's done this before. So just in the scenes where he was really going really hard in the gym and seeing him grind that out and kind of confront those guys, I think the emotional stuff was coming across really cool. I do like that he's nominated for the Founders Award. I think it's a cool little bit of tension because, like Nolan said, when I heard that you could be nominated by the student faculty or by the student body, I was like, so it makes sense. Will's kind of man of the people this last couple episodes, and now if they can nominate someone, it makes sense to be Will. My thing is, I'm not sure how the award or the winner is chosen because obviously there's some confrontation with the school faculty and Will. So if it's the teachers and stuff choosing it, they probably wouldn't go vote because, the protests and everything. But interesting that he's still nominated and he could potentially win. I don't know at this point who could win, him or Carlton. It could go either way, but Yeah, so I like Nolan said, I like where Will's story is going right now. He's at the little conflict with Jackie and Lisa, make things interesting. And I like him training in the scene where like he's not in Little Leagues no more.
Oh, I just want to touch on something else. So like I'm not really a big fan of like how they're trying to downplay like Will, or at least they're trying to make it a teasing point for him in this AAU like club that he is. Like, you're
Yeah,
from Bel-Air, you're rich. I'm like, this dude lived in Philly all his life. He's only been in Bel-Air a few months. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like they're just overlooking that previous history just because like in his current position, that's where he's at. Like, he can't help who his
yeah,
family is, how he got into the area to be in this position to be in this AAU team. Like,
Yeah.
but clearly, as they all said, like you was a highly recruited prospect, in Philly. Like, you don't think he's not hungry? You don't think he came from a single parent
yeah.
home? And
See,
it's just
my
like, just forget about
my
that.
It's not like
my
Carlton's
thing is,
part of the AAU.
no, I get it. So I get what I'm saying. I try to put myself in their minds. Like, I guess all they hear is that we got a new transfer coming in from Bel-Air Academy. He's gonna be
Yeah.
on our team. They may not know the history, the backstory. That's a good point, though, Nolan. Like, if he's recruited and they're kind of up to date with, high school stats, maybe they know, but maybe they don't. So I guess in their mind, they're just all they know is kids from Bel-Air, from Philly, but now lives in Bel-Air. So obviously they may think obviously they got money because how could you even get to Bel-Air Academy?
Right.
And then now he's in Bel-Air Academy coming to AAU. So all they know is Philly transferred to a rich school. And now he's playing for us. So they may not necessarily, well, they don't, know everything. But I thought kind of the same thing. I was like, Will's from Philly, so it's not like the situation they're making it seem like. But I'll just chalk it up to ignorance.
Yeah, I mean, they could think, well, he's come from a well-to-do family in Philadelphia. Right?
Yeah,
There are rich
yeah,
people in
exactly.
Philadelphia. There are private schools in Philadelphia. They could think, okay, he's coming from one private area to another private area. They may not know he, had a hard life on the, growing up on the streets and whatnot,
Yeah,
or, just a single family home, like you said. So, yeah, they're doing that obviously to try to put some conflict at the AAU, right? It can't just be all like everything's perfect, which I think is kind of good because in a sense, like Will kind of has everything handed to him because he's the king of Bel Air, and he's kind of gotten really pretty much whatever he wants, and now here in this environment, he's sort of the not underdog, but it's kind of putting him in his place a little bit by these other guys giving him a hard time, and him realizing like, oh, I got to swim. I don't know how to swim. But I think it's interesting to see how the Founders Award thing will pan out. I believe he will get it. I think that's probably what the show is kind of leaning towards because that'll again set Carlton even further off. That might be the reason he goes back to drugs, right? Because we saw him, with the drugs at the end of the episode. So I think him getting the Founders Award over Carlton is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. I was a little bit surprised by the whole Lisa him interaction in the pool. I thought there was going to be probably maybe a kiss or that was going to respark, but they kept their distance, so to speak. Will is keeping it, to what he wanted to do, which is, keep a distance with Lisa. What do you think about Lisa saying to him that he doesn't want to be friends with him anymore? Do you think that's realistic? I mean, do you think she can't be friends with her ex?
I've had heard that before in real life where someone still has feelings for him and they say like, it's just too hard for me to keep acting like there's nothing between us or that I don't have these feelings, so they remove themselves from the situation.
Sure.
I have seen that happen. It was a little interesting. She was like, like we can't be friends, it's over, and that's why they ended it. But I don't know, I'm stuck. Like, I have seen that happen. I don't know if it's unrealistic. I don't know if it was conveyed or portrayed though, like led up, like kind of right. What's funny though, not the tangent, but I remember last season she said we'll have to tell you something, and then all the craziness. So I think a lot of us speculated maybe she's pregnant or something. I guess she wasn't because I never came back up. But
right.
I remember last season she's like, well, I have to tell you something, and then like stuff hit the fan.
Well, it's only been 2 weeks. Last, so who knows, right? She could still be in the first trimester. True. You never know. It is weird though that she's like saying like, I'm not going to be your friend anymore, but I'm still going to be in your house and helping Carlton. And
that's
friends with Carlton, who's an ex.
Wow, that's a good point. I guess Carlton didn't have it like that.
Yeah.
Oh, Carlton.
Yeah. It is interesting to see how. I think that's going to it's going to be the on again, off again thing. By season 3, they'll be back together, and then they'll be off by season 4.
Yeah.
And then they'll get married at season 5.
What's interesting? On the Founders Award, before we get off that totally, I was like, how the heck did Connor get nominated? Like, who likes this kid?
Right?
I was
like, wasn't
what
he
the
arrested
heck?
or something?
Literally, what in the world?
Like, anybody can nominate anybody for this thing.
I'm surprised my name wasn't called when they was reading.
I know, right? It's a Gyasi.
I was like, yo, God, it's an honor.
It's an honor just to be nominated. But
oh man.
yeah, so I thought it was interesting to see him and Doc engage with one another, because obviously they painted Doc as the antagonist, right? But for the most part, he's been a decent guy. Like, he's trying to like help him out and give him a look and tell him, hey, look out for your education. Don't turn down this Founders thing. What are we thinking on Doc and Will right now? I mean, is Doc going to show his true colors at some point, or is he just a decent dude who's being misjudged?
Nah, he's got to. Like, I mean, they set him up to be that way. Like I think we said it in the last episode. There was that guy that led Will to him. We haven't seen him since. But, like once Doc knew Will was with the Banks, he was like, oh yeah, like now I'm interested in this kid a little bit more. Like, so we still don't know exactly what the reasoning is behind that. So to me, I feel like he still hasn't shown his true colors. Like, granted, he has a nice facility. They have an AAU team. Will's teammate, I can't remember his name, was like, oh yeah, I used to watch them all the time on some reality TV show or whatever and stuff like that. So they have good things going over there. And it seems like Doc, for the most part, he's genuine in the opportunities that he's trying to provide, but there's something that he's trying to get out of Will that doesn't seem like he's doing with anybody else, per se. And I think it's just because like who Will is connected with. So until that comes out in the open, Doc to me is still an antagonist. Like I don't give a damn if he gets some full ride scholarship to Duke. I don't care. Like it's Doc trying to do something.
That's the thing.
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I mean, I get that Doc is like painted as the negative person, but I just don't know what his long game is, right? Like, like there's been no real hint or idea, like what exactly is he planning,
Yeah. I was going to the same thing. I hope they're able to stick the landing when it comes to Doc and his motives, because obviously he has his long plan. Like, he was scoping Will out before Will knew. He got his niece in on trying to seduce Will and bring him in the fold. He like Nolan mentioned, he sent someone out to get Will. So there's something there, but like David's saying, everything's kind of just falling in line. Like, okay, he plays on his team. The big thing for me is Uncle Phil remediated the contract, so it's not even like he has him. It could be a big twist. I own you now. You're now contractually obligated to do X, Y, and Z. But Phil went through it. Phil's a lawyer. He's not gonna let that slide. So he went through it, and the contract is where they want it now. So that's in writing. And Will's on the team. So it has to be the Banks family. Because if you remember that first time we saw Doc at the end, he opened a photo and it was the Banks family. So it's something with the family that he's trying to accomplish. And Will's just a means to an end. So Will's getting what he wants, basketball, playtime, training, but it's something with the family that Doc is after, and that's what they're going to get to. But I hope they're able to stick the landing, because like you said, everything's falling in place. He's not doing anything, at least as far as Will, like, that a normal AAU coach wouldn't do, but it's something they've really going on for.
Yeah, and also I checked his IMDb page. Jabari Banks is his first actual television show. He has no other previous credits besides this, although he does have a movie called Bad Genius in pre-production.
I think I mentioned this, but Jabari, he's from my area, so we have a couple of good friends. He's from PG County, and he went to Riverdale High School, which is close to me. So that's PG. That's that PG excellence right there.
PG, Moco, all that.
Yeah, you already know. No one knows about the DNC.
Yeah, definitely.
Sweet. All right, well, let's lean right into Carlton's story, because it's kind of connected to Will's, obviously. So we see Carlton, also get the Founders Award. That was kind of expected. Connor getting in. I don't know what's going on there. And then Connor tries to get him back into the drug world, and he gives him a freebie to try and get him in there. And then he goes into the bathroom, and we think he's flushing it. And by the way, did anyone actually think he flushed the drugs?
I'm not gonna lie,
Not
I
at
did. I was
all.
like, I'm proud of
You did?
Carlton. I was like, he did it. I really did, but because in the trailer they showed that like the possibility of him getting back into drugs like in a season trailer.
Yeah.
So I thought when he had his flashback, I thought that was that. I was like, oh, they got us. Like that was an interesting way to do it. Like they
That
had
crossed my
him
mind
flash
too.
back.
Yup.
Yeah, I was like him flashing back to drugs, and that was probably what was in the season trailer. So I was like,
Right.
I was like, good job, writers. And then at the end, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. What's funny is like, so we know he doesn't take the drugs this episode, but he keeps the drugs. It's kind of like the Chekhov's gun, right? Of this.
Yep.
I don't think he's going to actually take the drugs. I think the drugs are going to be found in his drawer, and that's going to cause a catalyze something else. Like that's going to be,
that's a good theory.
that's we found these parents find the drugs, and now you're back on the meds, or you're losing the founders thing. Like something's going to happen because of that.
Or Will wins the founders thing.
Maybe Carlton does win it, but he gets disqualified because they find drugs. I
Mm.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would happen. In his own room or something like that. But that would be my like thinking. Like that's the sort of how do you say the twist, right?
I actually think that would be that's not too unrealistic to happen. I never thought about it, but yeah, like he has this moment where he decides, I'm not going to do it, and then they find the drugs, and now it's a problem. So.
Right. It's like everything's going his way. He gets it. He wins it, and then it's like, oh, well, we found these drugs. So
yeah, I can see that happening.
The runner-up is Will, So
dang,
that could be that's my thinking. But we're getting a little bit into the predictions portion. But yeah, so he didn't take the drugs. I thought, like you, Gyasi, I was like, oh, well, that's good. He did flush it. And then, of course, when they showed up again, I was like, I knew he didn't flush it. I knew it. It was like. So do we think he'll get into the drugs? Do we think that this is
I hope not. I would hate to see him take drugs again. I really hope the show doesn't revisit that familiar territory that none of us enjoyed or liked. Anything can happen.
Yeah,
I'm
the thing is
on board with him using drugs again. He is definitely
you're on board
with Nolan. Stop, Nolan.
My man is about to get.
You want to see the self-destructive Carlton?
He is about to get zooted. I already know.
Well, I don't think he will, only because he's very much like trying to convince his parents that he is like well, right, and that he, even despite of course, they find out that he had the breakdown at the protest.
Man, Lisa just telling everybody business, ain't it? Like,
I know, right?
I'm like, dang, Lisa, you just
shut up. Right? What are you doing?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I think he's not gonna use it, but he's gonna get accused of using it because, like I said, they'll find it. But I think he'll stay strong because he wants his parents to believe he's getting better, despite the breakdown. I'm surprised that there was no mention of him fighting the kid, and that sort of thing, because that was all on social media.
Everybody was filming it. Yep.
Yeah, I'm surprised the parents didn't bring that up, unless they're just not that connected. Which would make believable.
Or maybe it might come up around the Founders Awards, because maybe the dude that he fought might try to sabotage him. Like, this dude was beating up on me and stuff. But again, that's in predictions. But since we just around, it just popped in my mind. I was like, yeah, I might not remember that by the end of this. So
that's interesting. I did not consider that. But no, cool. All right. What else with Carlton? Did Carlton do anything else? He had that heart-to-heart with his mom about his anxiety, but beyond that, he was chilling with Jazz in the art museum, art festival thing, whatever.
Yeah.
I like moments like that when characters who don't normally have a reason to interact. Just a TV thing in general for me. So I thought it was cool to see him and Jazz like have a little bro moment, because I think like one thing about a lot of shows is like, when two characters are total separate storylines, they don't get to really have much to do. So cool little tidbit.
Yeah, we haven't really seen those two characters he was in the car with them when they went to the club, but
that's true.
They didn't really hang out with one
another.
But
it's still around Will, like still centered around Will, just kind of them like totally separate, but still like having a reason to talk.
Yeah, right? It's like you all have lives outside of Will. Isn't that nice?
Oh wow, who would have thought?
All right. Well, I think we touched on enough of Carlton and Will. Unless there's anything else you all saw that I missed.
No, not between them or individually. No, I think that covers all their bases.
I mean, I guess while we're on Carlton, I still think I don't know her name, but she's still being a little shady. Like Carlton expressed that he had anxiety, and I'm not I thought she was a cool character at first, but I'm not liking how she is moving right now.
Yeah, I would think she probably was the one who put up Will for the Founders Award.
Yeah, they said it was her. Like, that's just petty. Like, not that Will didn't deserve it, but it probably was. She probably had some pettiness in her when she did it. So
yeah,
absolutely. All right, cool. Let's go on to talking about the other major story, which was really the thread. I mean, the story thread of this whole episode was Viv's art exhibit, right? We finally now have something related to what she's doing besides just obviously talking about stuff. So she finally has the art show, and of course there's some drama between her and old Aunt Viv. I can't remember the character's name off the top of my head right now, because she's trying to direct how Viv is doing her art show, and she doesn't like that. But for the most part, I was surprised we didn't see Reed. Like here's her art show now, perfect opportunity, big Brack Reed. I don't think we're gonna see Reed at all this season, right?
Yeah, they didn't have him in the budget. just like how they wrote original Ashley out, they didn't have her visit little Ashley. She had to send a message.
Michael Ealy is one of the bigger actors to come on the show. So yeah, it's probably what we got you for a couple of episodes.
Man, you just made me think about Uncle Phil and the old love interest.
Oh yeah, that was the thing. We gonna get into that.
Yeah,
let's get into that in a minute. Let's just finish on the Viv storyline, just because again it was kind of like the crux of the episode. She had her showing, and she had Jackie play, do the dance thing, and obviously the Jackie, Lisa, Will triangle was sort of explored there a little bit. We discovered Lisa still had the infatuation on Will, which means why she couldn't be friends anymore, because she still wanted him and she just couldn't handle that. But for the most part, I mean, really there wasn't much of anything going on with Viv's storyline besides some conflict with her and the person in charge of the scholarship or whatever, the fellowship. But otherwise, I mean, she had an art show and it went well, and there was no drama there, and I don't really know where the story goes from here, honestly.
I mean,
I'm trying to get
better for everything else going on.
I just can't do it.
It was just incubating like the other things that was happening, like you said, with Jazz and Carlton, and like Jazz being like, oh snap, that's wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams. You know what I'm saying? Like we saw, like I said, touched on Will, Lisa, and Jackie's triangle. We also, that's the first time that Phil told Vivian we got a problem with Jeffrey. Right. It was just a lot of different conversations going on, like just plot lines mingling in and kind of diverging and whatnot throughout that entire thing. But the art show itself, like you said, actually, now we're talking about that. Did anybody else, when the dancers came out, started tap dancing or whatever, did anybody else wonder where did they get those platforms from? Because they weren't there when Viv was talking, and then when they done
performance,
I was like, wait a minute, I don't remember, because they just hey, it's the people dancing. And then next thing you know, I see them dance. I'm like, wait, they're on platforms. I don't remember them wheeling those out. I just be noticing stuff like that. I just man, they could at least did a proper prep for this episode, at least for prep for the performance. And then before we started, I told Dave, I was like, how ironic, Jackie is in the dance troupe. She just comes out of nowhere. Will's like, yeah. I'm like, man, it's Bel-Air is too small of a world. It's way too small of a world.
Yeah, I was wondering too. I was like, did Will set that up? I was like, okay, so Jackie's dancing at his aunt's thing. Doc is there too. Why was Doc there? I guess he was there because maybe to support Jackie, but I don't know. I'm like, all right, this is just too much cross interaction. Doc's just popping up everywhere, man. The clubs, Doc, the family events.
Doc has a relationship with Viv, right? Because Viv went to go see Doc to get Will an opportunity.
Right.
Doc has a relationship with Will. Doc has a relationship with his. There's a lot of reasons why. Doc. Right?
Yeah.
I think this event obviously included a lot of people who were associated with the banks in general, right? So Hill's ex, and just friends and family. So I think it was just a way and means by which to get more people at this event, right? Because you want the population, you want people at the event to make it seem like it's bigger and it's popular. And I think, yeah, so it makes sense that he was there. I think
Makes
if
sense.
Connor was there, I would have been surprised.
Good thing, Connor. But yeah, I agree with Viv's storyline. Now, I'm not sure where it goes from here. It's still not super interesting to me. Like, it seems like they're just giving her something to do just for screen time purposes and not necessarily. I don't think the writers themselves even care that much about this art storyline right now. Like, I really don't think they care. Like, and I'm not sure. Maybe I missed it. I wasn't really sure what the conflict was. I know the original author was like giving her notes and suggestions, but to me that seemed normal. I wasn't sure like why it kind of got dramatized, but the show, like I said, the show seems like it went well. But like Nolan said, this was more like a means to win. Like, it got everyone in one place, and that kind of see, like I said, the writers are more so just using her like to fulfill everyone else's story. Like, everyone was in one place. Jazz was able to meet the ex. Doc was having a conversation with Will. Lisa meets Jackie, and it's like, okay, so Viv's story was just used to escalate everyone else's. But yeah, I hope they do something. I mean, what episode was this? How many episodes do we have left?
This is episode 5.
Yeah, halfway
and
through.
They're halfway through. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, there's still some time to turn it around. Not much time. I hope things get more interesting with Viv soon.
Yeah, it's both Viv and Phil's storylines are kind of like developing in the background to something, but it's difficult to kind of discern what is the conflict there. What is sort of the crux of these storylines that I need to have stakes in? Like, what are the stakes of these storylines? Because it doesn't feel like
exactly
they've just been very well established. Everything seems to be like either too little information or the information they provided isn't compelling. Like, for instance, Phil's storyline. What is the deal with Phil's, like, he's trying to get a client back or get into his firm, or somebody's trying to sell his firm? I don't even know what the meeting between him and the ex was all about. Like,
well, no,
I guess trying to establish
she's the legal representative for the client that he's trying to get back. Because, like, if you remember at the end of their conversation, I think she was trying to hint that, like, well, I mean, there's something you can do to get my client back. Like it sounds like, that's what it did. That's what it sounds like she's trying to hint at and stuff. Because, like you said, I just picked the wrong guy, and clearly meaning like I should have picked Phil and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles that, especially after Viv and Michael Ealy's character, how he walked in on that and felt some kind of way. And they didn't even have, they had professional history, but they didn't have like, they actually talked back in the gap type deal. So.
Yeah, again, I know they're trying to establish that when she says like there is something you can do for me. Like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, clearly they're trying to hint at sexual tension there, but I don't think obviously that the favor has anything to do with that, because that's not really how client works. Like, if you you go on a date with me, I'll tell my client to get it. I think it's gonna be like you have to donate a certain amount to his campaign. So I don't know, not campaign, but it's some kind of favor they were gonna get. But it was obviously supposed to like pseudo flirt or like pseudo hint that like there's something there between them. Even though I don't think that's gonna be the preface of like the favor.
Yeah, I just don't see Phil as sort of a philanderer, right? They never painted him as such. To have him kind of turn on that, he shows honest love for his wife, all the time. So it's like they don't have a bad relationship. So yeah, I don't see that happening. But yeah, there will probably be something he has to do that's either embarrassing or maybe he sells his integrity a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But beyond that, Phil's storyline, not much going on there. Although I guess we should probably talk about Phil's storyline with relation to Jeffrey's, right? Because obviously he was suspicious of Jeffrey. We knew he was suspicious, and those suspicions came to light because he installed a camera in his office and he saw Jeffrey rooting around. What do we think about there? What do we think about Jeffrey and his sort of shenanigans?
For me, it's hard to fully have an opinion because we don't know what happened with Jeffrey and his son. All we know now is, I guess he's not allowed to see his son. Not sure why. And now it seems like he's trying to find his son. So I can't really say, he has a right to see him or he should be, I understand him, or like he shouldn't be doing it until I know the reason why they're not allowed to see each other. So I don't know. It's interesting. Like, I feel I haven't trusted him and installed the camera to to kind of catch him in the act. So it's definitely going to cause more conflict with Phil and Jeffrey. But I don't know. Yeah, I hope they get to it soon, like more of his backstory.
Yeah, because I mean, Viv said, we love having you back, Jeffrey. Obviously, Phil's trying to. He said, he's appreciating Jeffrey. So, I don't think they're going to fire Jeffrey again. But it is interesting to see like how this Jeffrey's desire to find his son, and I'm curious about Phil's role in not controlling that, right, or having some sort of like involvement in it. Like, why is Phil involved in Jeffrey's son's thing? Like, what caused that?
Yeah, exactly. I was wondering that. Why would his son's information even be in Phil's office? So
yeah, I think maybe Phil had something to do legally with that, perhaps. Maybe he knows. Perhaps there's like a some sort
he
of
probably represented him. If there was a court involved, it's no doubt in my mind Phil represented him. So that's a good point.
Represent Jeffrey?
Yeah, represented Jeffrey, like with whatever agreement was made for his son and himself.
Right. Maybe there's some sort of like separation agreement, distance. What's it called? Like restraining order type thing. Maybe that's something that happened, and that's why he can't see his son. Maybe the mother put a restraining order on Jeffrey to prevent him from seeing his son. That's why I think. And then obviously Phil knows about it and knows details about where his son is because he's a lawyer. But it's interesting that like Phil took the case with the son because Jeffrey was such a close personal friend and obviously worked for him. So
that's what I'm thinking.
What do you think, Nolan? Does that make sense, or
I'm actually, you all gave me way more insight on that because I looked at it very surface level, right? I looked at Jeffrey snooping around, which we already knew what he was doing. We didn't know why he was doing it, and then like hearing Phil and Vivian, or at least Phil for sure, deduce that I think he's looking for his son. Again, like I don't know too much about it until like the reasons behind it. I don't want to speculate too much because I feel like at least with Jeffrey and everything that he does, it always gets told. Like eventually, it's not like they piece it together here and piece it together there. Like it usually comes out all in one piece, whatever Jeffrey's involved in or doing. So I'm just kind of waiting for that trend to happen again and find out all at once.
Okay. Cool. Well, again, we'll see how that story pans out. All right, let's move on to, of course, Nolan's favorite aspect of this whole show, and that's Hill's storyline, right? Hill and the influencer house and the machinations that are going on with Hill trying to get that contract for the fancy water or whatever. And, of course, the ongoing Jazz and Hill dramatic relationship type issues. Obviously, Jazz is a little bit jealous that this football player, tall guy, was ex, the previous guy. So he's obviously a little intimidated there. And Hill's trying to make herself be the boss, the girl boss of the influencer house, and convince everybody that she can do the show and she can run everything and she's going to get those numbers up. And she does. She's able to use her connections to get somebody interested. But of course, now she's brought this guy in, and now it's making Jazz a little upset. So, drama for drama's sake, or do we think that perhaps Jazz is on the way out now? He's kind of lost, his confidence and faith in Hill.
Man, this show loves love triangles. Like we got Aunt Viv and Easley, we got Phil Lloyd, this new lawyer, then we got Lisa, Jack, and now we got football player Jazz. This show loves the love triangle angle. But no, I don't know. I at first I was like wondering why Jazz was upset. Like, okay, she has an ex. I mean, that's not that unexpected. But when I think about it, I guess she was in the wrong for not. She should have had a talk with Jazz. Hey, I gotta let you know that our numbers are down, and I need to pull a Hail Mary. And I think the best way if I get my ex to come in and boost our popularity a little bit. It would have been a simple conversation. It is kind of blindsided to just, she knew what she was doing because the whole episode she was like, I got something, don't worry. And then her ex pulls out while Jazz is there. So I think that, I don't know if it's drama for drama's sake or her avoiding like a harder conversation, but they should have had a scene where maybe she was a little hesitant, like she had Jazz, let me talk to you, and then maybe hesitate or something. I don't know. I thought it was a little weird for her just not to tell Jazz. She knew Jazz was at the event, so you're just not going to tell him that you invited your ex like that. that's a little unrealistic to me. I mean, I would just have to give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was just hesitant, but
Yeah, I've said it once. I've said it before. Like this Hillary is at no way in point in time has she been proactive about anything. She's always been
yeah,
reactive. And like clearly we see by her actions, she's now alienated Jazz. Jazz is like, stepping back and, got her looking crazy right now, but I mean, she had him looking crazy, right? Because, that whole Jazz knew who this guy was, right? Well, he knew him from a public figure standpoint. He's like, oh
yeah,
man, like I remember blah 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 blah, and then it's like, oh, oh yeah, it's your ex type deal, and then it's like, and then Hillary's like basically like she backpedaling at this point, because she's like, yeah, we stopped because he went all the way to New York or wherever, and so Jazz is like in his mind, he's like, okay, well that literally means you guys broke up not because there was a problem. You guys broke up because
yeah,
there was distance. There was the feelings were there,
yeah,
possibly even kind of a want, but one of you had an issue with distance, more than likely Hillary, and broke it off. So now Jazz has to kind of, well, he's probably thinking at this point in time in himself, like, were they still talking this entire time? Like, was it any kind of, were they seeing each other when he maybe came in town or something? Like, even before he got traded? Like, all that stuff is probably going through Jazz's mind because it's like, you guys are still in at least in a good point where you can invite him, one, to this art gallery and he shows, and then two, to ask this favor of him where he's going to plug you. Like, all that's red flags going off for Jazz right now. So yeah, I'm team Jazz right now, man. Like you definitely don't put your dude in a position like that. But like I said again,
yeah,
it's what to be expected from Hillary because it's just like she just gets herself into a mess and then it's like I don't know what I did. Like, well, you didn't think.
Yeah.
It's a clear answer. So yeah.
Yeah, she should have done the due diligence to be like, huh, will there be a conflict because I'm inviting my ex?
yeah. Like she just act like it was gonna be normal. Like what in the
Well,
world?
it's funny. It's like her and Will have that in common, but because both of them think like, oh, what's the big deal? Why would my ex care that I'm with someone else? Or, why would my
Yeah,
someone else care that my ex is here? Right? They both kind of reflect that because Will doesn't see the issue with him going up and kissing Jackie in front of Lisa, and Hill doesn't see the issue with bringing her ex in to see and meet Jazz. Like they
yeah,
both think, oh, like I'm not with this person, there should be like this should be normal, but these people have issues with that. It's like it's interesting to see both sides of the coin because like one is the partner getting jealous of the ex, the other is the ex getting jealous of the partner with the other person. So
yeah,
maybe everybody just kind of needs to be cool, chill out about exes, you know?
yeah,
I don't know. Do you
yeah.
guys, if you like had somebody and your ex came into the picture or they brought their ex, would you get upset about that? Like, is that something you would have issues with?
I think without the communication, yes. If we was having a party or an event, and the person I'm with, if she brought her ex and didn't tell me, that's a little wild. Like, what's going on here? Whatever reason it was for, you gotta at least let me know why you're inviting them. So I get it, but the Will thing, I understand that him and Lisa are still very fresh as far as like their relationship kind of being over. So I get why I wouldn't have kissed someone in front of her that soon, especially because they've still been hanging out. It's just kind of a respect thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think we worked through all the major storylines, and I know Nolan has to get out of here. So let's go ahead and just wrap it up with guesses and predictions for the future, and then we can just wrap up this episode. Does that sound good?
Yes, sir.
Sounds good.
All right. Let's start with you, Nolan. What are your predictions for the future for next
I
week?
mean, just like I said, I don't know about for next week, but for sure I know long term. I already told you guys I'm Team Carlton is about to lose his mind. Like
Yeah.
he about to be on that good white. He about to he about to be wilding out. Like I just know like it's just too many things that can say it's like Carlton is navigating the landmine at this point in time for the rest of the season, and it's just like for me it's like it's not conceivable at any point in my mind that he's not gonna like trip something, blow something up, and take himself out with it. Like, and I think we kind of talked about that earlier in the season on another episode. Like, this might be the season where we get that Carlton does the drugs, ends up in the hospital type deal, and like he finally bounced. He has to hit that rock bottom, and also get exposed, like to family on what's been going on with him. For him to finally be like, okay, all right, now I can. Yeah, they're gonna probably like be overly protective at this point in time, but it's
Right.
literally what I need to shake myself out of this. So that's my main prediction. Oh, and
I mean,
also next week, Jazz and Hillary should be getting engaged at that point in time. I think it's about that time for that episode.
oh my gosh. My man preying on Carlton's downfall, man. He's trying to see a downward spiral. So for me, I don't know. I think this is at a point where I really don't know I can't really predict what's gonna happen next as far as, Doc and Will. I still don't know what the end game is. I think the only predictions I can make are kind of obvious um as far as there's gonna be that love triangle thing with Uncle Phil, his girl, well not well his wife, and then this new girl that's just entered. There's gonna be some kind of conflict there, but I think that's obvious. Obviously it's gonna be conflict with Will and Carlton with the award. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where things could go from here. My question is, did Will learn how to swim before Lisa decides to do what she did? Because he has trials coming up, so she's gonna leave that man high and dry. Who knows? But I
Well, I
hope things
mean,
get
she set
resolved.
him up. I mean, she set him up for success. So, I mean,
Okay.
he knows the basics of swimming after her instruction. So,
Okay. So he's ready to go for it.
yeah. He may not be great, but he'll swim. He'll stay afloat.
Yeah. Yeah. I see,
Um,
and I wish I could predict what's gonna happen. I mean, like I said, obviously it's gonna be conflict with Uncle Phil and Jeffrey, but I can't predict where that's gonna go because I don't know. I don't know what the son's story is. So I'm
do you
interested
think
to see next episode.
you think the Doc and Will storyline continues past this season, or does it culminate this season?
I would imagine not. I would imagine they wrap it up by the end. But that's a
Yeah.
good question.
Okay.
I think it might bleed over because I mean, Will is still a junior, still
Right.
trying to get that exposure, still trying to get those because we don't know if he's going to go back to Bel-Air. Obviously his friend said we talked to coach about it. He's like, nah, he's not changing his
Yeah.
mind. So he needs that outlet to play. So I don't think that Doc situation is going to be over after this season. Well, before the season is over, I should say.
Right. Okay. I cheated and I looked at the synopsis for next week's episode. And I do know that there is going to be the reunion is going to be part of the next week's episode. But beyond that, the synopsis doesn't really give much of anything other than Carlton works hard to impress his dad. Will considers accepting the Founders Award nomination. I thought they pretty much sealed that he was going to take the nomination, this week. But yeah, so I could definitely see the reunion being a catalyst for maybe some more Carlton issues. His downward spiral. Obviously, they're setting up the downward spiral. I'm all about like Carlton's success, but obviously, people don't watch pro shows because everything is going well, right? They need to see Carlton. Carlton needs to have a downward backward spiral. He needs to lose it all. He needs to go to the bottom. He's going to lose the Founders Award. He's going to get back into drugs. He's gonna backpedal on everything. But I'd be surprised if they didn't. If he held true to his desire to be a better person, I think that would be great. And again, I keep on. I think it's great to continue to see Will honestly care about Carlton's well-being. Like he multiple times this episode, I think he was like looking out for Carlton. He cared about Carlton, and it's great to see that continue on. It's not just empty promises, not just fake. And the parents keep on bringing
Yeah.
Will into that trust relationship to look out for Carlton. So I think Carlton's going to get to the precipice, and Will's going to pull him back. Something's going to happen, and that's pretty much my prediction for at least that relationship. Viv and Hill, or I'm sorry, Hill and Jazz. I don't care. I hope they stay together. I hope they do. They make a good couple. I think they're going to stick around and continue dating into the next season. I think they're just a good power
Yeah.
couple. And then Viv and Phil and Jeffrey. I mean, there's just I can't even predict what would happen there. I think we're going to find something's going to happen. Like the whole Jeffrey Phil thing is going to boil itself into some big heated thing by the end of the season. But I still can't figure out what that will end up being. I just hope we don't lose Jeffrey again. He's too big a piece of the show.
Yeah, definitely. Well, last thing before we go, I want to guys your predictions. What do you think Doc's plans are? If you had to guess, what is he up to?
He's honestly wants to make Will the best player he can be for his success. I don't know. I don't know. I think it has something to do with Phil and his money and trying to get money.
He's trying to get more money somehow for something like.
Okay.
You know, that's. I think we talked about that last week, Dave. Not the week.
What if it's deeper? What if Doc has a brother that Uncle Phil put behind bars?
That's interesting.
I don't know. It could
I
be
still
some
don't know what
person
that would mean for like
Right.
what is he going to do? Like kidnap Will and put Will in a cell and hold him up for ransom? I
don't know. I agree with you guys. I think it's money. He's trying to get something out of the family, but I'm just trying to think outside the box. Like, what else could it be? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Doc is trying to get Jackie pregnant with Will's baby and then
for a
that
super child
over the banks for child support or something. I can't even imagine. They really need to they did a good job at the end of the first episode hinting at something, you know, with the way they need to get back to that again and show some backroom dealings and be like, yes, we are preparing Will for the transition. You know, they need to do something like that to keep it going. Like
transition.
This whole nice guy thing is a facade, you know.
Well, what's interesting too is Jackie is in on it. So obviously when Will finds out, I'm sure he's not going to be very receptive to that. So, you know, him and Lisa may be in game. Like he's not going to stay with her once he finds out she was plotting with her uncle to do whatever they're doing.
Yeah. I think it has something business related. I mean, I think there's something maybe in the contract that Will missed or that Phil missed, and it's going to end up biting them in the back. And there's going to be some issue with his future that, you know, Doc has been scheming, and the only way to get out of it is to pay him money or something. I don't know. I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe we'll find out in episode 6. Probably not. Maybe I should read all the synopsises so I know everything's so. All right, guys. Well, it is getting late. I know people got to get out of here. Thanks again so much, guys, for taking time out to talk about this episode and the show in general. It's a fun show. It's fun to talk about. So I really appreciate y'all's time and efforts to do this. For Saved by the Bell, the Bel-Air After Show, I'm David J. Murphy. And for Nolan and Gyasi, wish y'all a wonderful evening and see y'all next week.
Yes, sir.
See you guys next week.